Hey everybody, welcome once again to another Low on Health Daily Rambling, just kind of me going over what I've been doing recently. As a quick side note, I do want to mention that it's somebody's birthday, and that would be this guy right here, Rufus. I got Rufus basically on Valentine's Day back in 2000, and he was born, of course, earlier than that, so this is kind of his unofficial birthday. And so he's 10 years old now. He's getting kind of old, but he's still around and kicking. And just kind of like, yeah, hey, you doing, little buddy? Just I've always been kind of a cat person more than a dog person, and I just enjoy cats more. They're more self-reliant. They don't really, basically, I don't have to take him outside, so he has to go to the bathroom. Even though I do have to constantly let him go out on the porch so he can relax and chase birds and whatnot. But just want to mention it's Rufus's birthday, and hopefully he'll have at least 5 more to go, right? Okay. Let's just go ahead and start moving on here. I do want to mention that I've actually been kind of watching a lot recently today. Didn't really game that much, did a lot of watching and whatnot. Of course, the first thing I will mention here is the basically the Super Bowl ads, which everybody usually is all talking about. YouTube has a nice little interface where you can basically watch all of them and rate them. Off the top of my head, the ones that I liked, there was the Doritos Samurai one, which I thought was really good. You have the Snickers one, the football guys, that was also pretty funny. I did like the Google commercial just because it was simplistic, and that's what Google kind of represents, and it was just a nice little thing. And apparently that's their first real commercial they've done. There was also the Charger one, which I want to say was narrated by the Dexter character, which, was just kind of cool because for some reason I enjoy his voice of just monotone and blandness. But I will have to give the nod to the VW one with the punch buggy. With Tracy Morgan and Stevie Wonder at the end, because that's just classic comedy gold, and I guess that's just because I like Tracy Morgan a lot, but I think that was kind of my favorite Super Bowl commercial. And of course I didn't watch the game whatsoever, but nowadays these commercials were up like 4 hours afterwards. Moving on here, I did start watching a bunch of movies, and of course the first one I'm going to mention here is Shoot 'Em Up, which I mentioned before about Crank 2, about being kind of over-the-top shooter. And this one, basically, a lot of people mentioned, hey, if you want over-the-top shooters, try this one out. And, yeah, it's pretty much over-the-top. It's a lot of John Woo, basically gun-fu type of stuff going on here. And it does kind of reach for the stars, basically, once they're skydiving and shooting and doing cinematics up in the sky. But it's a nice little story. Once again, it's kind of just a standalone piece. You don't really have to know the backstory for everything and have everything explained to you. It's just a good old-fashioned action guy flick with guns. Moving on here, I also watched Dorian Gray, which this is a 2000, I think, 8 or 7 movie, basically of the classic Dorian Gray story. I always kind of liked the Dorian Gray mythos, mainly because I like the idea of somebody being so full of themselves that they clearly just do whatever they want, knowing that there's no repercussions. And I just kind of like that type of character. Of course, I always kind of hope that basically he never gets regret. In the original story, he does start to regret, and of course he destroys the painting. In this one, same thing. But I always hope that maybe there'd be a character that just says, screw it, that's just the way I am, and I'm going to live my life that way. But I do kind of like this kind of a timepiece. It's kind of like a Sweeney Todd type of old school London, and just kind of how one can give in to temptation. And I just really like that type of attitude. I just wish he didn't go back on it. I wish he would just constantly just be who he is. Moving on here. I eventually got to watching the horrible Dragon Ball Evolution movie, which is actually as horrible as everybody had told me, and I kind of knew ahead of time. I just figured, hey, I might as well watch it, if I'm watching stuff, I'm watching movies. But man, James Marshall's doing Piccolo was really the only reason why I wanted to play it, to see what he would do with it. And it's funny, I mean, they don't even cover the basics of Dragon Ball. It's basically, hey, it has the same type of characters, or not even the same type of characters. Their personalities are not even, I didn't expect them to be on spot, but relatively not even close. I mean, the special effects are okay at best. I mean, it's definitely cartoony, but man, they just kind of be off on the market. They had a really good promise for doing this series. And once again, I am a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I mean, I got the box sets and the whatnot, and this was just a big surprise of, really? This is what you're doing? But, so, once again, watch it if you have nothing else to do. But keep in mind, this has very little to actually do with the Dragon Ball Z saga or Dragon Ball in general. It just has the same names. And what else? I actually watched, like I said, I watched a lot today. I didn't do much gaming. It was basically one of those days I just wanted to relax and watch. Since I finished Dexter, I decided I want to kind of start another anime series up. And I started Higai J, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I didn't finish it. I was renting it at the time from Anime Nation. And I just like the visual style. I like the mechanical arts of it. And I really enjoy it. Now that I do have the box sets, I decided, hey, I might as well just go ahead and watch the whole series now. And of course, I don't really remember where I left off, so I'm going ahead and just starting from the beginning again. And ironically, I'm watching it dub, which is usually something I cringe my teeth at. But I really like the dub on this, and just like Cowboy Bebop, it's done very well. So I'm probably going to mention Higai J from now and then, but I just kind of started watching it just so I have another series to kind of actively work through. Another thing I want to mention is, of course, Monday I did a new post on Low on Health. I'm wrapping up my Besides Gaming 2009 series with the books I read in 2009, in which case basically it focuses on the Song of Ice and Fire series, and then of course my little torrid love affair with the Adventures of Pip and Flix. And basically, if you want to see some interesting or read an interesting little review of what I've been reading, go ahead and give these things a read. It might not be interesting to some, but like I said, it was just kind of me just going over what I did last year. And of course, writing these made me realize, hey, I should probably get back into reading some more books, in which case I'll probably hit up this guy's books again and probably restart the Spellsinger saga, which is kind of the reason why I started reading this series to begin with. But just in case, I just want to mention my post, naturally. And last here, I want to do Gamefly. Gamefly, they did ship me Bioshock. So hopefully I'll have Bioshock tomorrow, and I'll probably be plowing through that tomorrow. And I'll give my little impressions on that. Hopefully, it's a decent game like I mentioned before. We'll see what happens. But I do have my other person on my friends list. I got the White Knight Chronicles, and hopefully they'll be able to play that so we can do some of the online components. And then, like I mentioned before, down the road we have Aliens vs. Predator, which I'll hold on to White Knight Chronicles and probably do online if it's good, in passing over Aliens vs. Predator, or depending on how quickly I get through Bioshock. And then, of course, Heavy Rain, which is going to be next week, which I'm actually kind of super psyched about, and hopefully I might actually do the demo for it. Usually I don't do demos, but depending on how I feel, maybe I'll do the Heavy Rain demo, which should be out this week. But other than that, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching again, and like I said, all that stuff I mentioned before, if I had to pick something, definitely give Shoot 'Em Up a watch, because it's definitely worth it. But other than that, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching again, and have a good day.